Chapter 4. Dawn stole softly across the bay. The children gathered around the boat to move it into the water. Lauren and Sipho pulled. Michael and Rukmini pushed. And eventually, after much pulling and pushing, the boat slid gently into the ocean without a sound. Into it they loaded many supplies, including the magic book, a compass, and a great deal of courage. Lauren even took a beautiful precious stone which had been a birthday gift from her mother. Then, without looking back, the 4 children hoisted their sail, and the boat skimmed gently away from the land. The water sparkled. Rukmini checked for dark shadows, but there were none. She decided she must have dreamt the one she saw with her grandpa. It was a beautiful, peaceful morning with just enough breeze to carry the boat swiftly across the water. They could see people on the shore beginning to arrive on the beach and set up their towels and umbrellas. "My note mentioned that we'd be gone for about an hour," Michael said. "This could be a very long hour," Rukmini said. "Mine said not to worry. We're not learning in the bay for the morning. We're out learning in the bay for the morning," Lauren said. Time, indeed, seemed almost to stand still. After a while, the breeze dropped and they began to sail into a dense white fog. It was hard to tell whether they were moving or not. They dropped the sail. Suddenly, Michael, who was on the lookout, saw something. "Ship ahead," he shouted excitedly. The others followed his finger and saw what he saw. Just up ahead was a snow-white ship, its prow in the shape of a huge dragon, towering high into the mist. Slowly, their little boat, seeming smaller than ever, drew up alongside the huge dragon ship. As it grew closer, they could see a stately old lady with pale skin and long white hair at the helm. She waved and called to them. "Children, do I see children sailing the sea of silver?" "Careful," Rukmini whispered to her friends. "She looks like a witch." The old lady laughed when she heard Rukmini's words. "Oh, no, my dears, you needn't fear me. I won't do you any harm. Not now." "Who are you?" Michael called. "Sail a little closer and I might tell you. I've come to warn you." "Go closer," Sipho urged. "Let's listen to her. Remember, listen to the words of old people." "What if she isn't good?" Rukmini whispered. "I'm not afraid," Lauren said. "Tell us," she called to the old woman in the dragon ship. "We're here to listen. What's your name?" "Ah," she said, "my name is Dame Gothel. In my time I have been cruel and unforgiving. I was the keeper of Rapunzel many years ago, but I have learned humility. Now I am quite alone and lonely. I sail the sea of silver to warn travelers of danger. I see that you are on a difficult quest. I must warn you, Urkel is moving. His messengers are afoot. They are the devourers of light, of the words that lead to wisdom. Be watchful of these waters and of the islands you find. All is not as it might seem." As she spoke the last words, the mist began to evaporate, and with it the entire dragon ship, until the 4 children rubbed their eyes and wondered whether they dreamed the whole thing. "Something's happened," Lauren said. "We seem to be in an enchanted place." "What is Urkel?" "I don't know," Michael said. The bottom of the boat scraped against sand, and they ran aground. The mist had now dissipated completely. "Look, a dock on a little island. We can stop here for the night." The island was small and rocky, with hills and dense underbrush. On every side, the sea of silver stretched out to the end of the world. The children sailed in and tied their boat to a wooden pole. They climbed out onto the creaky dock and began to walk toward the mainland across a strange, pebbly beach. No one could stop thinking about the white dragon ship. That night, the children slept deeply and without dreams. When they woke up, the sun was high in the sky. They rubbed their eyes and looked at their boat. The rope dragged loosely in the water. The dock had vanished. There wasn't a trace of it, not even a splinter of wood. The ox gone, Rukmini cried. What shall we? Ooh, Lauren responded, and they all looked at each other. What's the matter? Michael said. You can't say your E's. You mean E's, Saifo added. Oh, ear, Rukmini sighed. Maybe it's because of Urkel's messengers. Something's happened to our words. Michael got up. Wait here, he said. He walked away from the beach toward the hill. Then he climbed up the hill and stood looking all around. He could see the wide, glittering sea. He stamped his feet. He saw nothing and nobody, and yet he knew that someone must have taken the dock. He cried out with all his might, Whoever has taken the Ak, return what you've stolen. And he stamped so hard on the hill that all of a sudden a door in the hillside opened. A furious dwarf with a long beard stood before him. Who are you? Michael asked, taking 3 steps back. I'm the dwarf of the door. What are you doing here? You're making a disastrous din. Maybe you can help, Michael frowned, and looked past the dwarf into a huge chamber full of strange sight that smelled of damp, torn earth. Don't want to, the dwarf said, and they yelled at something. Don't! Suddenly, dachshunds came bounding out of the cave and vanished behind the hill. A diamond tumbled out onto the ground, and then another, and Michael's eyes grew wide and round. Dragonflies exploded out of the rift in the hillside and landed on the dwarf's arm before they flew off into the light. At his feet, a dormouse was trying to squeeze out into the bright sunlight. Michael suddenly felt pity for the creature, for as the dormouse inched its way out of the cave, the dwarf clearly meant to catch him. Michael leaned forward and grabbed the little creature by its front paws and pulled it into his arms. At that moment, the dwarf flew into a rage. It's my dormouse, he screamed as Michael tumbled backwards. All at once, the oddest collection of objects began to fly out of the cavern, thick and fast behind the dwarf, as he continued to shout, My dawn, my diamonds, my dormouse, mine, mine, mine. Michael turned and ran down to the beach, holding the dormouse, as the peculiar collection came flying past him over his head. Finally, he stumbled breathlessly onto the pebbly beach. His friends ran to him, calling out with joy, The dock's back! Look! And what's that? What are you holding? Michael was so relieved to hear his friends speaking properly again, with D's, that he tried it himself. This is a dormouse, he said softly, and stroked it, rescued from the dwarf of the door. To their amazement, the dormouse began to speak in very soft and furry voice. Thank you for rescuing me. You've rescued all the D's, you know. He was taking everything he could. He had orders. Everything was being captured. Dogs, donuts, dancers, the dawn, the dusk. The D's were vanishing from the world, but you broke the spell. Is this something to do with Urkel? Rukmini whispered to the dormouse, who put his paw to his lips. Shh, don't say it. He might hear us. It's time to go. When they sailed away from the island of the dwarf of the door, they took the dormouse with them. He snuggled down at the front of the boat, and as the sun shone down on them and made the day beautiful, he slept as dormice do. The children ate from their stock of supplies. Then Michael took out the magic book and began to draw as his friends watched. The dwarf gave us a gift, even if he didn't mean to. We rescued the D's for our words. But look at how he's standing there with his hand on his hips. The dwarf is a D. With his three friends, when his three friends saw what he was drawing, they were full of joy. We have the letter D, they said in one voice. Indeed they do. And here is the dwarf of the door. Can you see all of all the things that start with D? They're in the picture. There's dwarf. There's the diamonds. Here's the letter D. He has a dragonfly on his arm. I'll put it a little closer. I hope you'll be able to see it.